Hello and welcome to Fantastic Fights, the podcast about a middle-aged man playing adventure game books out loud on the internet. That middle-aged man is me, Hieronymus J. Doom, and this is another bonus episode made possible by my patrons over on patreon.com/HJDoom. This time I have to thank a new patron, Louise. Thanks so much for your support, and also thank a returning patron, Kim. Thank you so much, guys. It's your kind contributions that make all of this possible. While we're doing patron stuff, I'm also very happy to announce that I've started work on my next gamebook, which is going to be a science fiction gamebook drawing on various of my favourite retro science fiction TV shows, Star Trek, proper Doctor Who, and my personal favourite, Blake 7. Starting nice and early should hopefully help to get this out well before Christmas this year, so that's something to look forward to if you're a patron. Now, let's get back to business. We are taking a look at a couple of Choose Your Own Adventure books this episode, which are part of a job lot sent to me by Stuart Lloyd a while ago. We've dabbled in Choose Your Own Adventure books before, but what I like about them is the sheer range of different stories that they tell. There's a real effort to create new experiences with every new entry in the series. What I thought might be fun this episode would be to compare and contrast two books from different parts of the series. That's not something I've been able to do in the main episodes of the podcast since I committed to playing every fighting fantasy book in order, but I think it would have been interesting to play two books written a few years apart and see what that revealed about the franchise as a whole. Thankfully, I can do that with the Choose Your Own Adventure books because this is the bonus episode and there's no rules. And it's possible we might learn something about how mature franchises developed. It's equally possible we'll learn nothing, but that is a risk I'm always prepared to take. The two books we're looking at are Book 10 from 1983, Prisoner of the Ant People by prolific Choose Your Own Adventure author R.A. Montgomery, and 1985's Outlaws of Sherwood Forest, Book 47 in the series. That second one was authored by Ellen Kushner, who would write 5 books for the series before going on to be a successful author in her own right. R.A. Montgomery sadly died in 2014, but Ellen Kushner still lives in New York with her wife Delia Sherman, and it's serendipitous to be featuring a queer writer during Pride Month, so that's a nice little added bonus. I had a great time with a Robin of Sherwood gamebook that we featured on the podcast a while back, and it'll be very interesting to see how an American writer takes on this most quintessentially English folk hero. Ant People, of course, are not really associated with any particular culture. So, I think that's going to be equally interesting. The plan is I'm going to play each book, then say a few words about it afterwards before doing a wrap-up at the end where I compare and contrast both books. So, Prisoner of the Ant People, some comments. Outlaws of Sherwood Forest, some comments, and then a little wrap-up at the end. That is the plan anyway. It might turn out to be unworkable, in which case what I've just said is a lie and we'll be doing something else instead. I think that adds a little bit of jeopardy to proceedings for people who are really invested in the formats of obscure pop culture podcasts. But without any further ado, let's start by playing Prisoner of the Ant People by R.A. Montgomery with art by Jason Millett. Another thing I really like about Choose Your Own Adventure books is that you can just jump straight into the action. You don't have any of those rules that we need to look at and analyse before we get into the meat of the thing. So let's begin. You are sitting at home in your living sphere, a perfectly round, gravity-free structure. A hologram generator sits next to the entrance hatch, ready to be switched on. You can choose from 17,000 different environments. And for today, you've decided on a villa in the Greek town of Minos in the 3rd century BC. You switch on the generator. Instantly, you are there, or at least it seems as though you are. Your sphere is now a villa. You can hear voices in the street outside, and you can smell fresh thyme and wildflowers. Oh, it'd be so amazing if this technology existed today and you could experience 17,000 different environments from across time and space. sort of, whilst doom scrolling on your phone, which is exactly how it would end up being, I think. Imagine having all of time and space on in the background while you check the socials. But just as you are about to relax in the villa, the hologram generator clicks off. You are back to your dull, old, white-walled space. Drat, what's up now? You say. The concealed speaker hisses, and then you hear the announcement. Emergency! Emergency! All Zondo Quest Group 2 members go immediately to Command Center. Repeat, immediately! You are out of your room and into the free-fall communications tube in seconds. You have been a member of Zondo Quest Group 2 for 3 years now. Your amazing talent with computers led you to the attention of this special group of researchers, a collection of the finest minds from Earth, Mars, and planet F-32, a planet at the outer rim of the galaxy. Planet F-32 has a real name, but no one can pronounce it. For 7 years, the Zondo Quest Group has been working around the clock in 3 shifts of 3. The group's mission is to combat the evil Power Master, an entity nobody knows much about who is trying to destroy individual planets one by one. The evil Power Master has unlocked some of the secrets of the universe and is able to cause the disintegration of matter. Everything crumbles as molecules break up and atoms fall apart, sometimes with devastating explosions. The Zondo Quest Group is in overdrive to find out how the evil Power Master is doing this and stop him, or her, or it. It is rumoured that other groups of concerned beings are also on the trail of the evil Power Master. You have not run into them yet. So there is a picture. Doesn't say what the picture is of. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's the evil Power Master, because there is a slightly androgynous face wearing a very stupid hat, and that face is smiling, laughing, shouting, kind of evilly. There's some really significant eyebrow action involved, and what appears to be a necklace that's mostly planets apart from one skull. And honestly, if this is a member of the Zondo Quest Group, I think there needs to be questions asked about whether or not this is appropriate dress for the office. The overall vibe is very much an off-brand Loki from the Marvel comics. It's quite a nice picture though. Generally, I've not been super impressed with the standards of the illustrations in Choose Your Own Adventure books, but this is a much more old school illustration rather than a kind of children's comic piece of work. So yeah, it's good. I feel as though specifying who or what it was might have been a good plan, but hey ho. You were selected by the researcher to be trained in the Computer Organised Laser Miniaturization Project, COLMP. You'd probably say it, COLMP. And it's not a good acronym. They wanted a young person to try new approaches. That's just fine with you, but it has been tough. Very tough. There is no time for fun, only work, followed by more work. Future sounds an awful lot like the present. When you asked your group leader about it, Rendoxal responded in its squeaky mechanical voice. "We must stop the evil Power Master now. If we do not, there will be no, repeat, no hope for any of us. All will disappear like smoke in the wind. We must get to the building blocks of the universe. Only then can we develop a plan to stop the evil Power Master from tearing them apart. We must succeed." It clanked several times and squished its soft plastic hands together. You weren't sure whether or not you believed this mechanical creature from F-32, but at least you've been given an answer. And there is a picture which I assume is of Rendoxal. Rendoxal is a sort of bullet-shaped tube with what looks like a single sucker at the base. Honestly, there's an adult quality to its outline, although the arms thankfully do distract from that a bit. Yeah, I don't know if this was deliberate. How innocent were people in 1983? How innocent was Jason Millett in 1983, I guess, is the specific question. Again, it's a pretty competent piece of art. There's a nice framing to it. You're looking at it from below, and it's slightly tilted to one side, as though you're looking up and to your left, which makes for a much more interesting composition than you often get in this sort of illustration. It's a nice enough bit of work, but it does look a little bit rude. Later, you checked with your second teammate, Flipto, a Martian who is relatively Earth-like. Flipto confirmed Rendoxal's story. Some of the words in this are really hard work. Flipto is Flppto, which, yeah, I'm going Flipto. Flipto also said he wouldn't really mind if entropy overcame the universe. Personally, I'd find it interesting to break up into minute pieces. You'd never know what would happen. So far, we have yet to make a single choice, and we are being ushered through what does feel like a science fiction story that's been written incredibly quickly, off the top of the guy's head, possibly with pharmaceutical assistance. With a slight bounce, you come to rest on the artificial grass of the research chamber. Rendoxal hovers in the centre of the room, emitting its usual orange glow. This time, it is a brighter orange than usual, almost a red. Its plastic, flipper-like arms are quietly tucked away into its dull blue and green metallic shell. Flipto sits nearby in a foam jelly chair. He calmly folds a piece of used computer printout paper into the shape of a spaceship and proceeds to toss it into the air with a smile. You can tell that Rendoxal doesn't like such unprofessional behaviour, but it ignores Flipto. There's a picture of Flipto. I would say he is a standard, goofy-looking alien. He's got a sort of bald, bumpy head, no nose to speak of, long, slender arms, and 4 eyes, 2 on either side of the space where his nose ought to be. He's tossing the origami spaceship up and down. Again, decent bit of work. Well, what's up? You ask. Rendoxal swivels towards you and speak. All members of the Rimposh team are missing. The Rimposh team members entered the research lab at the 000170 appointed phase, but have not come out. They are gone. You take a seat in another foam jelly chair and lean back. No, you know, they're Minervans. It's one of their games. They'll be back. Rendoxal beeps loudly at you, its usual sign of annoyance. Security search reveals no hidden Minervans in the research chamber. They are gone. You look up at Flipto. He grins. Good riddance. They were pests. Stop, or I will have you demoted, you heap of protoplasm, you low-level air breather, Rendoxal threatens between bleeps. And still, we've not been allowed to make a choice. I've been recording for 15 minutes, and yeah, this is just a mildly hallucinogenic science fiction story so far. You know that this must be trouble. Rendoxal only says things like this when it's really annoyed. Now the robot continues speaking in its scratchy, mechanical voice. The Baba-Ram team is also missing. Same conditions. I need volunteers to search for them. I will lead. Are you two with me? We will miniaturize and begin an atomic ray search process. So, choice at last. We can agree to go with Rendoxal, which does mean I have to keep doing that very irritating voice. You can suggest you should keep watch in the research chamber while your teammates search. That is the decision of a coward. Or Flipto and I can form a separate search team. I think that's what we're going to do. I find Flipto fractionally less aggravating than the robot. Flipto and I work well together, Rendoxel. Besides, it will be much better if we have 2 search teams. So you go on your way, and we'll go on ours. Rendoxel shudders slightly, a sure sign of its displeasure, but agrees. Go on then. Go. You will be out of my way. In the blink of an eye, Rendoxel hits the miniaturizer button, and the 3 of you are instantly reduced, clothes and all, to the size of a grain of rice. The research chamber now looks like an enormous cavern, glimmering with pale, whitish light. Rendoxel rotates around on its axis to orient itself, then it is gone in a clattering, whirring huff. Flipto moves over to the remains of the Babaram's lunch. There are greasy wrappers from the tuna salad sandwiches, which the Babas consider an exotic delicacy from the planet Earth. Hey, look at this! Flipto points to a series of marks on the wrappers. They appear to have been made with a sharp instrument. Can you decode these marks? Asks Flipto. It looks like a message. Do you think the marks are worth trying to decode, or do you think that's a waste of time? I'm still not 100% clear why miniaturizing people is an essential part of dealing with the evil Power Master. I feel as though I've missed a bit, and it's all contributing to this tremendous sense that some form of hallucinogens were involved in the creation of this book. I mean, a deadline is a kind of hallucinogen, I'll be honest. I think the marks are worth trying to decode, though. Let's have a look at them. I'll try to decode them, you say. You look very intently at the strange marks on the wrapper. It's not easy. The marks look like this. Yeah, there's a variety of marks. I mean, some of them are literally just exclamation points and dots and straight lines, but some of them are rather more esoteric. They look like they might be marks from a fork, for all you know. Then you remember a Martian symbol game Flipto told you about, the most popular game on Mars, as popular as chess or checkers is on Earth. This looks strangely like that game, but oddly enough, Flipto doesn't recognise it. 7 minutes later, though, you have decoded the message with his aid. It reads, "We are in the grip of the evil Power Master. Help! Luzina." Wow. The evil Power Master again. I thought so. You puzzle over the note. Who could have written it? Who is Luzina? Then you see the body of a worker ant crumpled underneath one of the sandwich wrappers. The ant is still alive, but barely. With his dying breath, the ant whispers, "They went into the ants' kingdom of Zom to help Luzina in her fight against the evil Power Master. I'm dying, but tell them I'll never forget." With a shiver, the ant dies. You turn and stare at Flipto. The ants? No, I never thought about them. Who would have? They seem so insignificant. I'll bet they're on the trail of the evil Power Master and have been for hundreds of years. I'm game, Flipto. How about it? Shall we search the kingdom of Zom? So, there's a lot going on here. Firstly, ants can speak English. That's important information to have. Secondly, the ants have been working against the evil Power Master for hundreds of years, which is not behaviour I typically associate with ants. Thirdly, the illustration reveals that this ant appears to be wearing a dressing gown, which is also pretty weird. So are these alien ants? I guess we have to assume they're alien ants, but they're not listed as alien ants. No one tells us they're alien ants. They're just ants. This is really, really mad. Flipto reminds you that you are not armed. So, do you want to go back to full size and arm yourselves, or hurry to find the kingdom of Zom? Well, who doesn't love firearms? Let's go and see if we can get some. You reach for the miniaturizer control, but you can't find it. Drat! Where could it be? You look at Flipto. You look, Flipto, it was right here in my pocket. Flupto peers into your jacket pocket, but he can't locate the control either.
You must have dropped it, you clumsy earthling.
Clumsy? Earthling? Why, you ear-skinned Martian, I'll have you know that we invented the word clumsy. I ought to know if I am or not, so there.
Impeccable logic, earthling. Why don't you figure out what we should do now? I'm sure you'll come up with something good. As for me, I'm going to meditate on the problem.
Flupto sits down on the ground. When a Martian starts meditating, there's no telling when he'll stop. You're truly on your own now. The end, bizarrely. I feel as though that shouldn't be the end, because we could just carry on looking for the Kingdom of Zom on our own. But according to the book it is. This is absolutely bananas. Let's see if we can find a more exciting ending than a Martian sits down cross-legged and has a good think. That shouldn't be too hard. So we'll hurry to find the Kingdom of Zom. We don't need to be armed, Flupto. We're a human and a Martian. Besides, it can't hurt to just look around. I say, let's get to it. Where do we start? Flupto answers.
I suggest an ant-hole. Where else?
If there's weakness of doing the Flupto voice, is that it's kind of a bit like yawning, and it's making me yawn just doing it. Very good, Flupto, very good. You get a gold star for effort. A careful search of the surrounding area reveals a small crack in the far wall. No light shines inside, and you sense danger, but this must be the entrance. Okay, I'll lead the way, you say. Follow me, but be quiet, Flupto. Inside the crack, you see a series of tunnels leading off in several directions. The largest tunnel has a faint reddish glow. Another tunnel glows yellow, and a third glows with a white light. Well, which one, Flupto?
You choose, O earthling. We Martians don't appreciate choice, you know.
So, colour-coded tunnels. I like the colour red, so we'll go with red. Let's go. This must be the main tunnel. Careful. Quiet as sunlight now. The reddish glow seems to warm the tunnel as well as light it. The two of you creep down the tunnel. There is no trace of life. Suddenly you hear a scuttling noise behind you. You turn to see a patrol of warrior ants dashing towards you. They pick you up and race off down the main tunnel. Minutes later you are in a huge central chamber. In the middle of the chamber is a giant ruby. Through a tiny hole in the roof of the chamber, a beam of sunlight hits the ruby, producing the reddish glow that floods the room. Come in. You will not be hurt. You are members of a Zondo quest team, are you not? You stare at a medium-sized ant standing beside the ruby. It is difficult to tell the age of an ant. The ant's voice, however, has the sound of age and experience. You relax. Yes, we are from a Zondo quest team. Who are you? You ask. The ant leans forward, bending her head nearer and speaking firmly. I am Arma, advisor to our queen Luzina, the greatest ant queen of all time, the fairest, the smartest, the kindest. This is her kingdom, the kingdom of Zom. More than 1 million subjects live in our anthill. This is the largest, best organised and most successful ant colony in history. You look at Flupto and give a slight wink. This ant is either Lazinia's most dedicated follower or a public relations genius. Well, where is this Lazinia? And where are our friends, the Babaram team and the Rimpoche? Amma points to the upper reaches of the chamber where you see several tunnels. Luzinia and your friends are all prisoners of the evil power master. The ant draws closer and speaks in a low, defeated whisper. Some say the evil power master will never give up until he destroys the universe. Others say all he really wants is fame. You can do nothing. Nothing, do you hear? Amma scurries away. You are alone in the vast empty chamber housing the ruby. It almost sounds as if she's been brainwashed, Flupto.
Yes, you're right. Here, what's this?
Flupto is standing in front of a table next to the ruby. On it are several objects. A sword without a hilt, a golden rope, a magnifying glass, an empty book, nothing but blank pages. There is also a note which reads, "The Earthling must take one of these objects and leave the room, or I will destroy Lasinia and anything else I choose. Signed, the Medieval Power Master, second in command for the Evil Power Master. P.S. You have a chance if you are clever." So is this about utility? A book with blank pages is not particularly useful as a book. A sword without a hilt is not much cop. A golden rope, is it hinting that the rope is made of something that's not really good at being rope? Of these, I feel as though the magnifying glass is going to be most useful. Handy way of defeating ants as well, a magnifying glass. So that's what I'm going to go for. You pick up the magnifying glass and realise that it holds a strange power. A laser-like beam shoots forth from the curved glass, cutting through the walls of the chamber to reveal tunnels and other chambers beyond. Some of the chambers are crammed with wheat and barley, flower petals and edible roots. Other chambers are gigantic nurseries holding thousands of infant ants, all guarded and watched over by workers. In one chamber are hundreds of insects, aphids you think, which are being herded and milked by still other workers. The beam of light hurts no ant. It seems to have a mind of its own. Finally, the laser beam of that magnifying glass pierces the wall of a small chamber. There they are. Lasinia and the Zondo quest team, all held tightly in the power of a pulsating ring of dark red light. You are sure the light must be the Evil Power Master. You don't know how you'll overcome the Evil Power Master, but at least you now know where to go. Good luck. The end. I feel as though the author doesn't really understand what endings are. It should say, good luck, the middle. Because why would you not just carry straight on trying to rescue them? Genuinely very, very odd. Still, I think we'll probably break off Prisoner of the Ant People there. I think you've definitely got a flavour of it, and that flavour is rabid insanity. I'm not saying I'm not enjoying it, because I do quite like stuff that's absolutely out of its gourd. But at the same time, I feel as though he's maybe not plotted this as well as some of the other stories we've seen. The last time we did a Choose Your Own Adventure book, we did Who Killed Harlow Thromby, which was great and really quite tightly plotted, and The Race Forever, which was less tightly plotted but still genuinely a lot of fun. Anyway, I'm going to go away and finish reading Prisoner of the Ant People on my own time. I'll be back for you in just a few moments with some closing remarks, or possibly with Outlaws of Sherwood Forest. Who knows? I don't at this stage. Tatty bye. I have finished reading Prisoner of the Ant People. It is quite the ride. In order to best describe the overall experience, we need to take a small digression into the world of early 20th century art and the practice of the Surrealists instituted by the French writer and poet André Breton. The exquisite corpse. This was a way of producing art collaboratively, in which an artist would draw on the top portion of a piece of paper, then fold the paper so their work was hidden, and pass it on to another artist who would then do the same thing. When all the artists had made their contribution, the paper would be unfolded to reveal the whole piece, which would be a bizarre mashup of all of their artistic impulses. Sometimes the results would be terrible, but sometimes they would create strangely beautiful pieces in which the different elements came together in surprising and thought-provoking ways. It was a way of bringing deliberate artistic choices together in accidental configurations that fed into the attempts of the Surrealists to explore the unconscious and the illogical boundaries of art. If you told me that Prisoner of the Ant People was the product of an exquisite corpse gamebook jam, I would definitely believe you. It is one of the most incoherent things I've ever read in this space, and I've read several books by J.H. Brennan. On some level, this is the worst designed gamebook I've ever come across, a tangled web of bizarre choices and mutually incompatible story beats that feels like it was somehow written by an infant on the verge of developing object permanence. It's not really one narrative, it's a series of vaguely linked short stories that erupt in staccato bursts from the page and then end suddenly, often in the middle. Many of the different plot strands tell completely contradictory stories. Go down one path and the ants are essentially prisoners of the evil Power Master who has taken their queen captive. However, if you go down a different path, the ants will take you prisoner and present you to the queen, who definitely seems to be in charge. And there's no mention of the evil Power Master. More often than not, the ants are hostile antagonists and your mission seems to be to try and help your comrades escape from their clutches, but you can also join up with the ants to explore space in their spaceship. Your robot companion turns out to be an ant in disguise in one version of the story, something that makes no sense even within the limited context the book has so far established. This is to say nothing of the evil Power Master, who is either in the anthill, outside the anthill, absent entirely from the plot, or blowing up a planet on the other side of the galaxy, depending on what choices you make. There's several things referenced that never get picked up in any of the later iterations of the story, which feels exceptionally bizarre. Also, are these ants normal ants? And we've just never noticed that they're super intelligent? Some kind of super special evolved ants? Or aliens that happen to look like ants? I don't know. I don't think the author knows either. Another thing that kind of gets on my wick is that this book is called Prisoner of the Ant People, which feels like it ought to be the premise of the book, but turns out to be more some of the endings of the book. It's a bit like calling a whodunit The Butler Did It, and then having the ending be The Butler Did It. If I was writing a game book called Prisoner of the Ant People, I think I'd want to make sure that it opened with getting taken prisoner by ant people, and then tell a story, or indeed a bunch of stories, about trying to escape. Here, it winds up feeling like getting taken prisoner by the ants is sort of the aim of the book, because it's the only way that you can make the title make sense, and that is frankly bizarre. It doesn't help that the choices you make seem to have only a sketchy relationship with the outcome of those choices. With the world a swirling mass of random events, it makes going through it trying to find the best endings feel like trying to pick up an eel with soapy hands. Everything is constantly slipping through your fingers, and it's impossible to use anything you've experienced in previous adventures to guide your decision making, given that the reality depicted is as mutable as a politician's principles. Characters appear and disappear at random, making your efforts to either challenge them or rescue them feel entirely pointless. There's lots of bits where characters will just rescue themselves if you don't seem to be particularly interested in it. At one point you have a little sit down and that somehow triggers the aphids in the ant colony to go into revolt, as though the very act of pressing your buttocks against the ground had somehow been a signal to throw off the shackles of oppression. Perhaps the most egregious example of this is where the book gives you the 4 options, which we saw in the recorded playthrough: the sword without a hilt, the magnifying glass, the empty book, and the golden rope. Choose wisely, the book told me. Well, the blank book is just a blank book, and it has no use. The magnifying glass, as we saw, is actually some kind of mad laser magnifying glass. The golden rope is obviously secretly made of ants, and the sword without a hilt will let you instantly kill the evil Power Master. None of it makes any sense except the fact that the empty book is completely useless, and that making sense somehow makes the least sense of all in the context of these incredibly bizarre, surrealist plot points. Of course, some of this is only a problem if you're making it a problem. There is nothing in the rules of writing a game book, especially one like this, that says there needs to be a single comprehensible plot underpinning the whole book. You are absolutely at liberty to tell multiple contradictory stories in the space of a single volume. And this was very much the approach that the first Choose Your Own Adventure book, The Caves of Time, took. That used the MacGuffin of magic caves that could move you through time and space to tell a dizzying array of very short stories, with most of them being self-contained and having no links with any other part of the book. And a series of unconnected but exciting episodes is a perfectly valid way to produce a gamebook. What the Cave of Time did was to spread the different stories sufficiently wide that they didn't contradict each other. The problem here is that all the different stories are taking place in the same relatively small space, and so all the different strands overlap each other, and it makes it very hard to keep track of what, if anything, is going on, and almost impossible to learn from your mistakes if you're looking for the best ending, because the two different options can just lead to such completely different, incomprehensible outcomes. I will say that if you like surprises, then Prisoner of the Ants will definitely deliver, and that is honestly not nothing. There were points where I laughed out loud at the sheer disconnect between what I thought was going on and what the book suddenly told me was going on, and I think there is potentially some fun to be had in this space, perhaps riffing on the way that characters in pop culture are constantly being rebooted and spun off in different ways. I think you could maybe do a fun Batman choose-your-own-adventure book where the tone is constantly shifting from campy to gritty and everything in between as you explore different plots connected to different iterations of the character. Equally, I think there's mileage in a whodunit gamebook where different strands lead to different culprits. You could do it as a comment on the supposedly infallible detective who always gets the answer right. However, I do think that suspension of disbelief is more difficult when you don't have any sense of a larger structure in which the adventure is taking place. It removes the game element of gamebook and replaces it with a kind of formalist narrative experimentation, which challenges how we tend to consume traditional stories. You do get long-running TV shows, comics and book series that aren't especially interested in their own larger continuity. James Bond is perpetually frozen at 37 years old in Fleming's novels, for example, and various different backstories being put forward for Batman's Joker over the years is just par for the course. But in general, even those examples are concerned with continuity within the specific episode you're engaging with. In the case of this book, I think the relentlessly flippant tone doesn't help either. The style of the prose is constantly acting to lower the stakes and remind you that nothing you're doing is impactful or important or real. It's obviously written for young children, but that doesn't have to mean that your story becomes completely inconsequential. So that is Prisoner of the Ant People. I found it disappointing, but it did make me smile fairly frequently, and mad as it was not a struggle to plough through, so it's obviously doing something right. I think it's the worst choose-your-own-adventure so far, but at the same time, I did find it extremely memorable, so there is that. Will Outlaws of Sherwood Forest be as demented? Let's find out right now. So, Outlaws of Sherwood Forest opens with a couplet from a traditional folk song, apparently. Many speak of Robin Hood that never bent the bow, many talk of Little John that never did him know. Which is, quite a cool little opening. And I noticed in this that it's about the same sort of length in terms of sections as the previous one, but it seems like the writing is slightly smaller, so we may actually have more words to tangle with. Anyway, let's dive into it. Camp stinks. Your parents said, "Go, dear, you'll have a wonderful time, meeting other kids and roasting marshmallows." They didn't say anything about giant mosquitoes and cramped cabins and forced swims in ice-cold water. So like a fool, you went. The place is called Camp Yuchi Kui, but to you it's Camp Yucky Fooey. Most of the other kids are creeps. Just because this is your first year, they treat you like a second-class citizen, and they're always trying to get you in trouble with the counsellors. To make things worse, the food really stinks. Everything is covered with a gooey cream sauce, so you can't tell how badly it's burnt. Wish you could disappear. Actually, you wish everyone else in this place would disappear, because the area is really kind of pretty. Camp is surrounded by a deep, dark forest, and there's a clear stream running through it. You'd like to walk off into those woods and never come back. That is the most 2025 statement I think I've ever seen in a choose your own adventure book. Yeah, that is very much my kind of energy. But they'd probably call out the dogs or the FBI and corner you like a rat, and the kids would laugh at you and your parents would cut off your allowance for life. Only two things make life bearable: your new camera and archery practice. The camera was a birthday present from your parents. It's a pocket Instamatic with a built-in flash, and you carry it with you everywhere. I think I had something not dissimilar in the late 80s. I was terrible at photography in those days. Archery is great because you turn out to be very, very good at it. The best in camp. And Judy, the archery coach, says that if you keep practicing hard, you'll soon be as good as she is. Today, you've got permission to skip team sports so you can practice some more. You have 5 white arrows in your quiver and your 6th is notched and ready. You aim carefully. Just as you release the shot, a soccer ball comes flying from the nearby fields and hits you in the back. Your shot goes wild and your favourite arrow flies off into the woods. There's nothing you can do but go to search for it. 15 minutes later, you're still looking. In the distance you can hear the arts and crafts counsellor yelling that it's time to make igloos out of popsicle sticks. If you ignore her and keep looking, you may get into trouble. But if you leave the arrow in the woods overnight, the morning dew will ruin it. Maybe you could wait till everyone's asleep, then sneak back and search for the arrow by moonlight. I feel as though these sort of camps are a distinctly American phenomenon. I guess I was a Cub Scout, and we did do some camping, but I don't think of being sent away to camp for a couple of weeks during the summer as being quite the same sort of rite of passage for middle class English kids as it is for American kids. It's a slightly weird thing. I remember being very surprised by it the first time I saw Friday the 13th, that this was apparently just a thing you did. Anyway, do we want to keep looking for the arrow or decide to hunt for it by moonlight? I think I want to go and hunt for it by moonlight. When everyone's asleep, you sneak out of your cabin. The full moon makes everything shine silver blue. The forest looks dark and scary. You're not sure you want to enter it, arrow or no arrow. To give yourself some courage, you go and get your bow and some arrows from the sports shed. Then you begin your search. Already this feels more tightly plotted by someone who appears to be vaguely on the same planet as me, so that's nice. Before long you come to a clearing circled with flowers. A birch tree gleams in the moonlight on the far side, and it suddenly occurs to you that you'll never know if you're really good at archery unless you shoot at something besides straw-backed targets, something more difficult like that birch. You fit an arrow to your bow and take careful aim. Just as you shoot, a cloud passes in front of the moon. Everything goes dark, but you hear a thunk. And when you can see again, you can see your arrow quivering in the tree. Fantastic! You're about to see if you can do it again when you hear a hissing sound. Another arrow has split yours down the middle. You whirl around. No one's there. You seem to be alone in the midnight clearing, but someone must have shot that arrow. And whoever it is, he's a better marksman than you, and his next arrow may be pointed straight at your heart. Do you want to take a chance and run for cover, or put down your bow and arrow to show you mean no harm? I mean, I assume this is Robin Hood. If it's not, I'm going to look pretty stupid, but I'm going to put down my bow and arrow to show I mean no harm. You put down your weapons and stand there defenceless in the moonlight. It's the hardest thing you have ever done. Nothing happens. The forest is silent. But you're sure you're not alone. The weird emptiness makes you think of the astronauts on the moon. I come in peace for all mankind, you say. Your throat is so dry it comes out as a croak. But there's a rustling in the trees, and a form detaches itself from the dappled shadows. It is a man carrying a bow as tall as he is. "Now, by my faith, that was well said," he remarks. "Peace for all mankind, a noble thought, but not very likely when our good King Richard is off fighting the Crusades, and fair England is bled dry by fat bishops and wicked princes. Come, friend, I see your tongue is as skilled as your hand. What business have you with Robin Hood?" So we're going down the good King Richard line. Does irritate me a little bit. Brilliantly subverted in the Robin of Sherwood TV show, where he does come back from the Crusades briefly, and yeah, he's not really good King Richard, although he is very happy to trade on that reputation. I get it. Contrast with bad Prince John, who was, to be fair, a wrong 'un, but you could say that about pretty much any monarch and be bang on the money. Robin Hood! You can't believe it. But Robin Hood was an English outlaw in the Middle Ages, you say. He died hundreds of years ago. The tall man laughs as though you'd made a really good joke. Did I indeed, young friend? Yeah, I wish you'd tell that to the Sheriff of Nottingham. Maybe then he and his knights would stop chasing me and leave sweet Sherwood Forest in peace. The wicked sheriff, you say, remembering the stories. Regretting trying to do an American accent for this character. Regretting it strongly. Probably not as much as you are. Indeed, he is a wicked man, says Robin Hood. I see you an old friend to him, and thus a friend to me. Now, will you join my band of outlaws, or may I escort you to the other side of Sherwood Forest? The man seems real enough. Somehow, some way, you've been transported to the past. Do you want to join Robin Hood's band, or would you like to try your fortune in some other part of merry old England? I feel sick just saying merry old England. Yeah, just purely based on that, we're going to try and join Robin Hood's band. I mean, what kind of young person wouldn't want to join Robin Hood's band? Please, sir, you say, I'd like to join your band and live in Sherwood Forest. Robin smiles. Good. Then pick up your bow and place your right hand upon it. Now do you swear to steal only from the rich, to give to the poor, and never to betray a fellow outlaw by the strength of your right hand and your hope of heaven? You feel a chill run up your back at the solemn words. I do, you say proudly. It is well. He claps you on the shoulder in a comradely fashion. Then follow me to our secret camp where you can meet the others. Robin Hood moves swiftly through the forest. His feet never make a sound, although every step you take makes a noise like an elephant crunching a ton of peanut shells. At the outlaw camp you are made welcome. Little John is there, along with many of the band. You meet Friar Tuck, Eleanor Dale, and a cheerful red-headed man called Will Scarlet. There's a big fire with a whole deer roasting over it. Somebody cuts you a slice, and it is delicious. You have to eat it with your fingers, but no one seems to mind when the juice runs down your chin. Across the fire from you is an old man. His hair and beard are long and white, and his features are in shadow, but his eyes glimmer like stars. Who's that? You ask Will Scarlet, pointing to the old man. Where? Oh, that's little John. No, in front of him. Will gives you a funny look. There's no one there, he says. Now come. Robin's making plans for tomorrow's raids. You don't want to be left out, do you? He hurries off. You look back across the fire. The old man is still there, smiling strangely at you. And there's an illustration of people sat around the fire. This feels more classic children's book illustration. A little bit stylized. Everyone seems to have very large head and hands. It's competently executed, though, and does capture a tremendous sense of comradeship, so I like that. Do we want to investigate the mysterious old man or go after Will? I think we'll investigate the mysterious old man, who I believe to be Merlin. You can see the old man across the fire perfectly clearly. He's still smiling at you, so you go over to talk to him. Greetings, my child, he says. I see you have found the way here. You must be brave now, and strong and cunning. Do not forget your oath to Robin Hood, but if your courage should fail, you call upon the words of power to return to your native land." "What words of power?" you say. "I don't know any magic." "They are words of your own making, bitter words of unhappiness. Use them only as a last resort." You still don't know what he means, but before you can ask, a spark jumps out of the fire and lands in the dry grass near your feet. You hurry to step on it, and when you look up, the old man is gone. Bitter words of unhappiness, which I guess must be connected to the camp we have just come from. After a moment's hesitation, you hurry after Will Scarlet and the other outlaws. "Oh," says Will, "there you are. We thought you'd been carried off by old Nilren." "Who's that?" you ask. "He's a mysterious character who's supposed to haunt Sherwood, giving strange advice to people. Some say he's a wizard, some say he's one of the fair folk. I say he's a product of one too many mugs of ale." Nilrem being Merlin backwards, of course. I was right. Of course I was right. You start to say something about the old man, but Robin Hood is beginning to speak, and you turn to listen. "My merry men, I have word that the royal tax collector will be passing through Sherwood tomorrow noon, laden with bags of gold. He'll be guarded by an escort of soldiers, but with our knowledge of the wood, we can set a trap for them. I cannot promise there'll be no danger, but Little John is in command of the raid, and he needs volunteers. I myself will go to Brampton as usual to bring the poor there the gold I have promised them."
"Oh, no, you won't,"
says a voice. The band of outlaws gasps, and Robin shakes his fist. "Who dares to contradict Robin Hood?" he demands.
"I dare,"
says Friar Tuck, pushing forward.
"I hear there have been spies in Brampton, strangers asking about Robin Hood. It might be the sheriff's men have set a trap for you. And I say, send someone else, or if you must go, take one of our band with you to be lookout. Let it be one of the new recruits, someone who won't be recognised as one of us. You strike a hard bargain, but so be it, Tuck." Robin flings up his arm heroically. "Now, who's for Little John and the tax collector's gold? And who's for me and the poor of Brampton? And who," he laughs, "wants to stay by the fire all day and get fat?" All around you men are stepping forward, offering to go with Little John. You're about to join them when Will Scarlet nudges you. "Here's your chance," he says. "Your face is not known in Brampton. You could go with Robin Hood. Do you want to go with Little John or Robin Hood?" "I want to go with Robin Hood." "Sorry, Little John, but you're very much the understudy in this adventure. I want to go with the main guy." This is pretty good, in all honesty. "Sir," you say to Robin Hood, "let me come with you. I'm the newest of the band, and I could watch for spies without being recognised." Robin accepts your offer, and while you both change into beggars' rags, he explains that it is the custom for beggars to sit on the church steps and hold out a bowl for people to drop coins into. You don't understand how this is going to help distribute gold to the poor, but Robin smiles and tells you that you'll see soon enough. After a long walk through the forest, you come to the town of Brampton. It isn't what you would call a town, just a dozen huts, a church, and a blacksmith's shop. Robin sits down on the church steps and holds out his begging bowl, but it is full of coins. And instead of putting money into it, as they pass by, the poor peasants take Robin's coins out. All the while Robin is calling out, "Alms for the poor! Help a poor man down on his luck!" And you are watching to see if there's anything suspicious going on. Out of the corner of your eye, you notice a well-dressed man lurking at the side of the church. It seems as though he's trying to watch Robin without being seen. Is he the spy Friar Tuck heard about? Maybe you'd better warn Robin so he can escape. Suddenly the man slips away towards the forest. Maybe it would be better for you to follow him. That way you'll know for certain what he's up to. There is a picture of Robin sat on the church steps with a woman going away counting the money she's taken, and a well-dressed man. Yeah,
It's pretty good. The dress looks reasonably authentically medieval as well, which I do quite like. Yeah, it's a decent bit of work. Now, do we want to tell Robin Hood about the man or follow the man ourselves? Well, Robin's busy. I don't want to bother him. I'm going to follow the man myself. You follow the man you think is a spy past the edge of town and all the way to an old deserted mill. You creep up to a crack in the wall and listen as he tells someone, "The outlaw Robin Hood is in Brampton now, disguised as a beggar. Move swiftly and you'll capture him, and I will have my reward." The old mill is very dusty. Before you can stop yourself, you give a triple sneeze. Immediately, a strong hand seizes you and hauls you inside. "A spy!" the men exclaim. They tie you up and put a gag in your mouth. "The sheriff has no room in his jail for children," they sneer. "We'll release you once we've taken the outlaw Robin Hood." But the man you followed leans over and whispers, "You will never be released. No one must know that it was I who betrayed Robin Hood." Night falls, and then another day comes. The mill is full of mice, but by the time anyone comes to look for you here, all they will find is your bones. It's a good, grisly ending, a proper ending. I like it very much. There's a picture of your bones. The skull's been rendered to make it look sort of sad and confused. And there's some mice clambering over it. Yeah, nice little bit of work. That's good stuff. And indeed, a proper grisly ending, which I always enjoy. So we will go back and we will tell Robin Hood about the man instead. While pretending to put money in Robin's beggar's bowl, you lean over and whisper, "I saw someone watching you from the corner of the church. Then he slipped away. I think he might be up to something." Before Robin can answer, you hear a horn and the thunder of hooves. 5 men on horseback sweep into the town, their swords drawn and raised. "In the name of the Sheriff of Nottingham and the Prince John of England, we come to arrest the outlaw Robin Hood," one shouts. "Let no man hinder us on peril of his life." Robin carries a sword under his rags, but he can't fight off 5 men without help. Across the square is the blacksmith's shop full of half-finished swords, horseshoes and iron bars. You're sure to find a weapon there. But can you reach the shop in time? "Quick," Robin whispers, "into the church and lock the door." Do you want to follow Robin into the church? Or do you want to run to the blacksmith's shop to get a weapon? Well, I think Robin knows what he's doing. Let's follow Robin into the church. You and Robin Hood lock the church door behind you and bar the shutters on the windows. The sheriff's men pound on the door, yelling threats. But Robin says that you are safe. "They will not harm us here in the sanctuary of the church," he explains. "But I must think what to do. We cannot stay here forever. If we are lucky, one of the Brampton folk will run off to Sherwood to ask my men for help. But we cannot count on that." While Robin tries to work out a plan, you prowl around the church. Then you smell smoke. "The curs!" Robin cries. "They've set Greenwood alight around the church to smoke us out. In an hour there'll be no air left to breathe. Alas, it is a sorry day for England when such fiends represent the King's justice." "It'll be a sorry day for us if we don't get out of here," you say. "I found a tiny window at the back of the church. Maybe they aren't watching it. You can't get through it, but I can. I'll squeeze through it and run to Sherwood for help." "No," says Robin, "it's too dangerous. They would shoot you on sight. Maybe help is on the way." Do you want to stay with Robin Hood or risk going through the window? I want to be brave. I want to save the day. Robin Hood gives you his horn to summon help once you reach the forest. Then, very carefully, you squeeze yourself through the window and drop silently to the ground. No one sees you. The sheriff's men are all at the front of the church waiting for Robin Hood to come out. You creep around the edge of the town and run towards the cover of the woods. You run so hard that there's a terrible stitch in your side by the time you reach Sherwood Forest. With your last breath, you blow Robin's hunting horn. In a moment, the outlaws come running. When you tell them what's happened, they set off at once for Brampton to rescue their leader. Still panting from your desperate run, you lie down on the forest floor in the middle of a circle of sweet-smelling flowers. You only mean to rest for a moment, but soon you are asleep. When you wake up, it is night and the full moon is shining brightly. You must have fallen asleep instead of looking for your arrow. What a strange dream you had all about Robin Hood. You decide that you'd better get back to camp, put your bow back in the sports shack and sneak back into your cabin. Then you notice that it's not your camp bow that's in your hand, it's an old hunting horn. Somehow you don't think there's much point in showing it to the camp directors or explaining how you left valuable camp property in Sherwood Forest. Besides, you're planning to go back and get the bow and arrows just as soon as you can figure out how. The end. Bit of a disappointing ending in some ways, but part and parcel, I think, of the whole format is to have some that aren't that exciting, aren't that good, because that's one of the things that makes you go back and play again, hoping for something a bit more exciting. If all of the endings are thrilling and patting you on the back, there's not really the same incentive. So I'm fine with the underwhelming endings. I thought that was great fun. I'm going to go away. I'm going to play it on my own time, see if it continues to be great fun even as I explore it in more detail. And I'll be back for you in just a few moments with some closing remarks. Tatty bye. Compared to Prisoner of the Ant People, Outlaws of Sherwood Forest feels much more like what you might expect from a choose-your-own-adventure book, which means paradoxically there's probably a lot less to say about it. I honestly really enjoyed it, and I think if I'd read it at the right age, I might well have considered it one of my favourite books in the series. It's doing that delightful thing where it hits a bunch of the stuff you'd want in a Robin Hood story, but also contains enough surprises to keep it from feeling like a mediocre greatest hits compilation. In traditional choose-your-own-adventure fashion, you have a whole bunch of very short stories, but where Prisoner of the Ant People gave the distinct impression that reality was melting under the pressure of hitting a deadline, this all feels much more considered and well structured, and the stories feel a little bit longer as well, which helps. You get two core versions of reality, depending on whether you search for the arrow during the day or the night, but within these two different iterations of the story, the episodes within all feel as though they're taking place in the same continuity. And crucially, the decisions that you're offered all feel like consequential ones and lead to outcomes that generally bear some relation to the decision you've made. There's still a tendency for certain things to come out of left field, but that's part and parcel of the format. You want some things to feel like a surprise, or the whole exercise risks becoming predictable. But overall, I was very happy with the sense of being involved in the stories that were being told. There's even one plot point that hangs on whether you met the mysterious old man earlier, the man who is clearly Merlin, which is nice because it shows that the author is taking account of previous events in designing the layout of her book. One thing I really like is how varied the stories are while still sticking to certain fundamental elements. In particular, the running idea that you're very ambivalent about whether you actually want to return to Camp Yucky Fooey after all. There's quite a few endings which involve you returning home and getting to avoid serving out the rest of your time at the summer camp, which sounds amazing, honestly. Summer camp just strikes me as hell. This sense that home is not the most fun place to return to helps to push you into the adventures, and it makes the endings where you stay in medieval England feel less tragic. The narrative dances around the issue of you being a stranger in a strange land while still allowing you to embed yourself in the milieu quite easily, and that is a delicate balance to strike. People are broadly willing to accept you as part of their world, but your status as an outsider never quite goes away. There's lots of good, solid Robin Hood stuff to do. You can rob a tax collector, spar with a knight who might be King Richard I, and infiltrate the Sheriff of Nottingham's castle in order to help Marian escape from her suitor Guy of Gisborne. There's also some more peripheral stuff. You can go off to apprentice yourself to a minstrel and get caught up in the machinations of the Queen of the Fairies. There is a glorious bit where she can magically transport you to the sheriff's castle, where you run into yourself doing a different plot strand. If you find that other plot strand, you can also run into the version of yourself that was transported there by the Fairy Queen, which is honestly fantastic. That's the sort of thing that helps make this feel like a book where the world has some sort of objective existence that isn't wholly dependent on your decisions. That's the best example, but there's also several places where you can encounter King Richard, and in one of them he's clearly following one of the plans that you would have had a chance to have input into had you met him earlier in his timeline, and that sort of thing is wonderful. I said earlier that there's nothing absolutely wrong with using the gamebook format to tell a selection of very different and mutually incompatible stories, and I still think that's formally correct, but at the same time it's never going to bring me as much joy as finding out that you can interact with the same plotline at different points and see events from different angles. That is the sort of thing that excites me in a choose-your-own-adventure book, and I think it does come down to the idea that I want to adventure in a world that could conceivably exist without me. In the case of Robin Hood, that's particularly important because these are stories that exist outside of the choose-your-own-adventure franchise and which have certain very well-defined tropes that a reader is going to want to engage with. When you structure a game book like Prisoner of the Ant People, it creates a strangely godlike aura for the protagonist, as whole new universes are conjured into being based on the decisions that you make. Go left and the world is full of evil ant monsters, but go right and suddenly those ants are peaceful scientists. I don't want that kind of thing for Robin Hood. I don't want to turn left and discover that Robin Hood was a robot all along. I mean, maybe sometimes I do want that, but in general, I just want him to be in Sherwood Forest with his polycule doing fun stuff with arrows, and this book delivers on that extremely well. The other thing that I think this book gets right is making you the centre of attention, whilst at the same time not turning Robin Hood and his merry chums into background actors for your adventure. It's easy to either become so enamoured of the cast that you forget this is supposed to be the reader's adventure and not just a chance for Robin Hood to show off, or conversely, to turn Robin Hood and his merry men into idiots who need the protagonist's help to tie their shoelaces. The right balance is really important because you want to hang out with your heroes, but at the same time you want to feel as though it's your choices which are driving the narrative. Outlaws of Sherwood Forest hits that balance really well for me, and I had a lovely time exploring all the different narratives that it created. It feels like the platonic ideal of a certain kind of choose-your-own-adventure story. The title sets up a clear premise and clear expectations about what is going to happen in the story, and then basically delivers that. This is in contrast with Prisoner of the Ant People, whose title sets up some expectations which the narrative occasionally manages to deliver on, but mostly gets sidetracked into other generally insane things. I've said before that some of my favourite game books are the ones that deliver on an easily graspable premise, whether that's a riff on Mad Max, being a ninja, or simply being a domestic cat. The flip side of that is that I get a bit shirty when I think I'm being offered a nice simple premise and that doesn't happen. Remember Space Assassin, where you are definitely not a space assassin in any sense? I do, and I'm still angry about it. I still think that Who Killed Harlow Thromby is my favourite choose-your-own-adventure book so far, but honestly, Outlaws of Sherwood Forest runs it a close second. It's nicely written, it doesn't have the self-consciously goofy tone of Prisoner of the Ant People, while still retaining a little bit of child-friendly humour. It's got a lovely mix of different endings, including a few pleasantly gruesome deaths, which I always appreciate. Most of the stories seem to end properly as well, though there's the odd one that feels more like a middle than a conclusion. Overall, it's great stuff, and I'll be definitely looking out for the other titles by Ellen Kushner in the series. I'm also going to check out her adult fantasy novels, which sound intriguing since they're described as Jane Austen meets Gormenghast, and I like both of those things a lot. I think that's probably enough for this episode. Join me in a couple of weeks for the next book in Steve Jackson's Sorcery, which I'm hoping will be as good as I remember. It'll be interesting whatever happens. Don't forget you can also listen to my other podcast, Popular Antiquarian, where we've recently covered Snakes on a Train, the mockbuster of Snakes on a Plane, and Monster Mash, a film about Dracula the Wolfman, the Invisible Man, and the Mummy teaming up to take on Dr. Frankenstein, and is somehow much, much worse than I've made that sound. If you want to get in touch with me in the meantime, you can reach me at hjdoomretrofun, all one word, at gmail.com, or by following me on Blue Sky at hjdoom. Thank you very much for listening, take care, and I'll see you soon.